alongside Tommy Krysan. TK joining us from Court Street Cafe in historic downtown Port Allen. I'm in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. And as always, Sports Shorts Daily presented by Le Bears Casino and GameCoin. Go to GameCoin, thegamecoin.net, and buy some coin, folks. So TK, this week a lot of big games. Let's start off right at home. There's a weird vibe going around this LSU Central Michigan game. I mean, it's almost the vibe of concern that the Tigers may not, that they might actually struggle against Central Michigan. We know Central Michigan lost by 10 to Missouri week 1. They had a shutout against, Robert Morris in week 2. That's no big deal. What's your kind of gut feeling telling you about this game this weekend?
Well, Ronnie, I'm like everybody else. You can't kind of get a feeling for it. You can't grab the vibes. I mean, it's been a little bit weird, a little bit different. And, LSU got a couple of injuries, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
I mean, the vibe is definitely that of concern, no question about it. And clearly the Chippewas are a real deal. They're a better opponent than McNeese. But, I mean, at some point, right, it's going to kick in for LSU and they're going to start playing like a big-time SEC team. I mean, I keep waiting for that to happen. I thought last week defensively, I know the opponent, but, I mean, they were suffocating against McNeese. The special teams was special. Offensively, do you think we see a lot? What was your takeaway? Nussmeier's numbers weren't as good because he had a lot of drops. But what was your opinion? Nussmeier, a lot of people liked his swagger and liked the way he played and his decision making. Did you see anything special out of him in his first appearance in Tiger Stadium?
I like the body language. I like the demeanor, if you will. And I know he was 3 for 10, but I just liked what I saw. Albeit a very small snapshot, and he had some drops, as you said. Now, I would think that they would want to be able to get him in the game if they can get up on Central Michigan. But I'm not so sure they're going to get way up. Central Michigan's better than McNeese. Here's one thing, Ronnie. Their coach, Jim McElwain, was the head coach at Florida for 3 years. He went 1-2 against LSU, including beating LSU in Tiger Stadium. Now, he had Florida players, not Central Michigan players. Central Michigan all-time is 0-10 against current SEC members. Most of them games were against Kentucky. So, you think about that, and you think about McElwain being an offensive guy, and he's going to see these pass routes. He was also an offensive coordinator at Alabama, so he knows that LSU is loaded with talent. And I just think he's going to come up with a plan to test this LSU defense more than McNeese did and just see just how good they are. The crossing routes, he's going to try to create blown coverage situations. So, I think LSU is going to win the game. I really do. But I don't know if they covered 19 points. The line was 20.5. Now it's down to 19. First half LSU minus 8.5. I mean, what do you? But like you just said, it's kind of hard to get a feel. LSU had a lot of injuries last week. Got a few guys. Ali Gay's not going to play this week. And then, can the offense get it into gear? Coach Ed Orgeron said he's met with the coaches. Just look at me stuff on the sideline, which I think looks like junior high football. He said all that's going to get cleaned up. He talked about speeding up the play calls and all of that. But, Ronnie, when you've never been an offensive coordinator and all of a sudden you're an offensive coordinator against UCLA, then McNeese, it shows that the guy had never done it before. He may be the best offensive coordinator in the country 3-4 years down the road. But right now he's brand new. That's why I don't know that LSU can separate, get Nussmeier in, and or cover this spread by the end of the night.
The spread is 19. LSU a 19-point favorite over Central Michigan. And the spread is going down, meaning that some money's coming in on Central Michigan to cover. I'm going to take LSU minus 19, Tommy. I think there's just too many weapons on offense. I think you're now getting into your third game. You're starting to figure some things out, who you can count on, who you cannot. I think they're going to turn it loose a little bit more on offense. I do believe in Max Johnson. I mean, this is only his only his fifth start as a quarterback in college. This was a guy who lit it up and won in the swamp and put 50 on Ole Miss in the last game of the year. I mean, that just doesn't go away. Now, who you play with and how you call the plays is changed a little bit. But that said, I believe in that defense more than anything, and I think that LSU, you might see something similar to what you saw last week. LSU may not paying 50 on Central Michigan, but I think if they get into the 30s, they can cover the spread. I don't see Central Michigan scoring more than 2 touchdowns. So I'll even take a 38-14 kind of win, but that's a cover. So my jumbo pick of the week for the local pick, LSU minus 19, TK. By the way, just how you know I'm going to win, I'm not putting any money on any games this weekend. Last weekend was abysmal. All my money is going into thegamecoin.net. I'm betting on Gamecoin. I'm not betting on games, which means I'm going to pick winners. I mean, anytime you don't put money on games, you pick winners. And so I feel really confident about this week, LSU minus 19.
All right, well, my early call would be Central Michigan plus 19. I'll tune that up and maybe update it Saturday morning on Sports Shorts Radio when we're at the Walk-Ons in Bruley, which is not far from Court Street Cafe here at Port Allen. So I'll update that on Saturday. But, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a little hard to get a feel for it. And some other people I've talked to are like, well, they should win. They're going to win. But do they cover? I'm not so sure. I mean, people getting that feeling. And, of course, LSU's 0-2 against the spread this year, for whatever that means. They didn't cover against UCLA. They didn't cover against McNeese. That's a trend that some gamblers like to look at.
Speaking of college football, let's stay on that topic for a little bit. Auburn at Penn State is really a game I'm excited about watching. Auburn is plus 6 against getting 6 on the road at Penn State. How about this? First Big Ten road game in almost 100 years for Auburn. 1931, the last time Auburn went on the road to take on a Big Ten opponent. That's unbelievable. But that's going to be 100,000 people in Happy Valley. Auburn getting plus 6. I think I kind of liking Auburn a little bit, but at least on the plus 6 side.
Well, and it's the whiteout day at Penn State. We always talk about the SEC stadiums being tough places to play. Penn State is tough to play when they fill the building and they're all going to be wearing white. They're going to be going crazy. But I got to believe top to bottom, Auburn's got better football players. They haven't really been tested this year yet. But, on the radio for a long time, Auburn and Georgia wouldn't go north of the Mason-Dixie line to play a football game. So obviously Auburn's stepping out. If they can win this game, that's going to be huge for the new coach, Brian Harsin. I think I really like them plus 6, and I might even lean on that money line, which is plus $1.45.
Wow, that's pretty strong. You'd like them on the money line. I'm going to stick with my trend, although I lost last week. 9 of 10, Alabama had covered that first half money line. I think everybody was saying it so much that the bookies made that first half line just so ridiculous. What was it, 38.5 last week was the first half line against Mercer. Alabama didn't cover that. This week, Alabama is a 8.5-point favorite against the Florida Gators. And I'm back. Listen, Tommy, I told you, I'm never not going to bet Alabama in that first half line. So it's real simple. I'm always going to bet Alabama first half line. Yes, you're not going to win every single week, but I think worst case scenario, you're going to win 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. So I'm back on the Alabama Crimson Tide first half line. Florida's getting a lot of run based on the fact that they played Alabama to within a score in the SEC championship game when they kind of backdoor covered a little bit. But this way, I'm back on it. Take Bama, big 8.5 against the Florida Gators. So there's a little college football pick for you. Those are my 2 jumbo picks, TK. Alabama minus 8.5 in the first half against Florida. LSU minus 19 against Central Michigan. I'm going to win them and go 2-0, guys, because I'm not going to put any money on them.
Well, Ronnie, here's the thing. When you're straight up betting in football with the normal juice, you're not buying points, you got to hit 56.5% of your games to make money, to be ahead, to be in the black. Okay, if you've got Alabama first half line, I got to believe you're going to win 80% of those games, if not 90, over the big thing, so over the big picture. So I think it's a wise move to play the percentages and play the odds, which is what you got to do. And we talk about that at meatandpotatoesusa.com. It's about managing money. And if you bet Alabama in the first half line all 12 times this season and you win 9 or 10 of those, you're making money. I mean, that's just what it's all about. I mean, you make a bet to win money, not to lose money. And you have to play the percentages, and you have to look at, a snapshot of a 2-week window or a month window, because you're not going to get them all right. Nobody does. Nobody gets them all right. But you can find some value and get most of them right. You're going to make money relative to how much you're betting.
Let's move over to the NFL for a minute, TK, and appreciate it, Craig. You like the white hat. It's an old school hat. I broke it up out of the closet. Speaking of the New Orleans Saints, they are a 3.5 point favorite over against the Carolina Panthers this week. The line's gone up from a standpoint of they were a 3, now it's a 3.5. And I think that has to do with, we're hearing a lot about some of the coaches, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, that are out this week with COVID issues, or at least at the moment may not be there. A couple of players are out as well. So I think, and then you had an interesting statistic you were telling me about Jameis Winston against the Panthers.
All the time he's 4-5 against the Panthers. Okay, now I think the biggest storyline for the Saints game this week is Jameis Winston. Can he do what he did last week? And maybe not have 5 touchdowns, but can he protect the football, which he did? Can he move the team up and down the field? Can he hit the big play? And Carolina looked at last week's tape, so they're going to be ready for him. I think that's the storyline. If Jameis Winston can have a good to better than good game, Saints' chances of winning on the road against a division opponent are very strong. I don't think the 4-5 is something you hang your hat on. Now, the other thing, Jameis Winston has now come out and said, he had the LASIK surgery, right after he got to the Saints organization. And he, like anybody that's had it, said, wow, what a difference, And now he said, I'm not making this an excuse. He said, I'm just telling you I can see better now. I can see down the field better. I can see the opponent helmet better than I could, especially if it's, because sometimes on a 10-yard out, the opponent's 35, 40 yards away from the quarterback, and then more if you go down the field. So I think the biggest storyline for the Saints, can Jameis Winston play well? Can they run the football with Kamara and Jones Jr.? And then, let Winston do his thing with the tight end and the wide receivers. That's going to be a big key. I think the Saints defense looks to be okay. Can Jameis Winston repeat a solid performance?
Well, I think so. I mean, listen, this organization, and if we are to believe everything we've heard about the New Orleans Saints from players that come into the league from from the organization from other teams, they rave about this organization. They rave about the coaching staff, the way they're treated as players, the communication, the vibe in the locker room. Now, we know Drew's not in the locker room anymore, and that's going to change the locker room vibe. But there's enough guys that have been there and been a part of the system the last few years and learned not only from Drew but Sean and others I do believe that Jameis is young enough and probably got humbled enough when he threw those 30 picks and then couldn't find a job as a starting quarterback in a league, even though he threw 30 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. That's crazy. I always thought that was crazy. To me, absolutely, that guy should have had a starting job somewhere. You can debate on whether he chose to be a backup with the Saints to learn or not. But bottom line is you spend a year in that system knowing you're not going to be the guy, and all you have to do is just learn from the best, one of the best ever to do it, one of the best coaches, especially on the offensive side in the last 20 years. I mean, that's going to change you. And then, oh, by the way, Tommy, he had to earn it. As much as Taysom Hill probably didn't have a realistic chance of beating James Winston out for the job, they didn't just hand it to him. He had to bring it because they did have an option that has won games for this organization. So he had to earn it too. And I think it's changed him in a good way. And no doubt he's got a coach in his ear who's talking to him a lot different than Bruce Arians about what to do with the football. Talking to Archie Manning, who told me a few months ago when I was at his house, getting some stuff for the Hall of Fame, he was talking to me about how Bruce Arians, wanted him to, just to push the ball, and wasn't as concerned about the turnovers as the rest of the world was. Well, that's not the case with Sean Payton. And so I'm believing in Jameis Winston, no doubt about it. And, oh, by the way, on ESPN this week, Marcus Spears, of course, he's a little bit of a homer, but Marcus Spears said he absolutely believes Jameis Winston's going to be, a top 5 finalist for the MVP this year. I don't know about that, but I do think he's going to win Comeback Player of the Year.
We talked last week, Ronnie. Sean Payton, when Drew Brees was out, went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater, and he went 3-2 with Taysom Hill. Go back to your percentages. That's 8-2. What Saints fan wouldn't take 8-2 in any 10-game stretch? You absolutely take it. So I don't think, Peyton's a brilliant offensive mind, brilliant play caller. His game plan is solid, and, he made it work with Drew Brees, who's not, I don't think he's nearly as athletic as Jameis Winston or Teddy Bridgewater when healthy, or Taysom Hill. So I think if you look at that angle, it goes back to what I said. Can Winston have another solid performance? I don't necessarily mean pro 5 touchdown, but don't turn the ball over. You get some kind of tip pass or whatever, that's different. But, if he can lead this team up and down the field, field goal kicking was solid. And they got a good chance to win this game straight up. Obviously, they're favorites, but it is a road game, and it's tough to win in the NFL.
I'll say this, Tommy. The Saints are a 3.5-point favorite against the Carolina Panthers. I don't know that I can make a pick today. I need to see who's able to play, in that game Sunday. If it was a normal week and there wasn't all the COVID stuff going on, I think that we could probably figure it out and make a prediction. But with the who's going to be there as a coach, who are the players that are out, is there contact tracing, anything like that? I think this is almost like a game time decision where we got to wait till Sunday morning to see who actually dresses and who plays before you make a final decision on this game. Although I'm leaning towards the Saints, pretty good here. I would probably, if I did take the 3.5, Tommy, buy the half to get the 3, because on my platforms, that a push is a push. You don't lose the juice. Now you do it old school way where you meet the guy behind the gas station, the hand of an envelope. You're going to lose on a push at least 10%. But a lot of the online stuff these days, a push is like a no bet. So I would probably be leaning towards buying that hook to get it to 3. But we'll wait to see what happens Sunday morning with who's available.
I think that's a good plan. With those circumstances you pointed out, you can make a bet 5 minutes before kickoff. So, there's no reason to rush right now. I don't think the line's going to fly around up or down, but, that's the risk you take when you wait to bet. But if you wait to bet, you get more information that may persuade your bet.
By the way, TK, some news out of the NFL. Urban Meyer, right? A lot's been going on with Urban Meyer. Said not interested. This was, reports coming out. Maybe a candidate USC. He is not to be involved. He'll put his foot in his mouth about media, right?
You're breaking up on me, Ronnie. Your picture's fuzzy, and I cannot hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. I know you were talking about Urban Meyer. That experiment's not going to work. It's not going to be long term in Jacksonville, I don't think, for everything we already know and the things we're going to know.
Urban Meyer came out and he is not interested in a job. He would not leave the Jaguars for the USC job. No way. That was. But you've been very critical of Urban Meyer, is what I was saying. He's put his foot in his mouth a number of times, including with the Denver media.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the NFL coaching job is different than the college coaching job in a lot of ways, a long list of ways. And he just thinks he can do what he wants. Kind of like when he got to Ohio State and he didn't want to follow the Big Ten unwritten rules about recruiting. He just seems to do what Urban Meyer wants to do. And, it's just not going to work in Jacksonville. I mean, I would be stunned if he's still the coach 3 years from now or even next year. I mean, I'm sure they might give him next year, but it's just not going to work. I mean, Steve Spurrier, Nick Saban, we can go on and on. Jimmy Johnson, one of the ones that had success going from college to NFL, but more of them have failed than have had success. And based on the way he has started, from the hiring of that strength and conditioning coach to the megaphone in everybody's ear while they're stretching like rah-rah college stuff, that doesn't work in the NFL. And he's learning fast that he better follow NFL guidelines and protocols, or it may last less time than we thought.
Obviously, USC fired Clay Helton on Monday. Urban Meyer said, "I'm here and committed to try to build an organization." He went on to say, "I don't want to ever fall into the trap of saying this is a 4-year plan or a 3-year plan. That's not fair to players. It's a one-game plan, and then we'll worry about the next game." So obviously, the Urban Meyer conversation is going to happen a lot. What do you think? I mean, listen, you mentioned Jimmy Johnson, the success he had. Well, at the beginning, the first couple of years, Dallas was terrible before he finally got it going. I mean, I know nowadays with the salary cap and free agency and things like that, you can change up your organization's future relatively quickly. But, I mean, you still have a rookie quarterback. You still have a first-round pick that's out this year, not going to play. You still have – I mean, we got to give Urban Meyer a little bit of time.
Well, that's what you would think you have to do, and I would think the ownership would agree with you on that. We got to give him time. I mean, they're not going to win more than 5 or 6 games this year, and that might be top end. So are they willing to do what Meyer said yesterday? He wants to build an organization. Okay, that doesn't happen overnight. Because in the NFL, I mean, if you're not getting better, somebody's going to get better and going to stay better than you.
By the way, condolences. I have to shout him out to Louisiana Sports Hall of Famer and LSU assistant coach Kevin Falk on the passing of his daughter. And not expected to coach this weekend. Daughter was, I believe, 19 years old, Tommy. Can't even imagine what he's going through. Kevin is a fantastic guy. Known him a long time. Obviously a friend of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and a true LSU legend. And Tom Brady called him his, favorite teammate. So I definitely just unbelievable. And his daughter, by the way, was she was involved with the LSU program, and stuff like that as a student worker. So tragic loss for him. That's reverberating through that building, and everybody has nothing but love and appreciation for what Kevin Falk has done and meant to LSU. So condolences go out to him and his family as they go through this tragedy that I know, Tommy, you and I are very fortunate not that, we both have children that are grown, and, I can't even imagine getting that phone call.
Yeah, I mean, I know Kevin a little bit. You know him better than I. I just don't know where to start other than, your prayers are with him. Hopefully he can be strong for his family, and his family can be strong for him as they deal with this situation. And like Coach O said, I mean, family comes first. He's not going to coach this weekend, and who knows if he even goes to Starkville the following week. That's up to Kevin Falk. But I know on behalf of you and I and everybody I know, my thoughts are with Kevin and his family.
Finally, before we go, there's a new rule that's being considered amongst the Division I Football Oversight Committee. And this is interesting, Tommy. It's a 1-year waiver that would allow football programs to go over the yearly 25-player signing limit, according to the American Football Coaches Association. In the proposal, makes it clear it's far from finalized, by the way. College programs would be able to recoup an initial counter for every current player that transfers, up to 7 players, and a max of 32 initial counters. As it stands now, college coaches can only sign 25 per year, which includes high school prospects and transfers coming into the program. You may be able to sign as much as 32 players based on if you qualify with all the transfers. I like this is something that the Division I oversight committee is looking at. Tommy, this makes all the sense in the world to me. I don't know how you can hold teams to their 25 player signing if all of a sudden you have a mass exodus of players to other schools. I think this has to happen.
I agree with you. This is one of those unintended consequences of the transfer portal. Okay, they threw the portal out there, and then now they're realizing, okay, we have to make an adjustment. So I'll credit them for making the adjustment. And the American Football Coaches Association, they've been on this for a while because they saw this coming with the transfer portal. And what you had last year, Tennessee had like 9 guys transfer out. Well, that's 9 guys that were in that 25 signing. So I'm glad to see they're trying to put something in place to help these teams who lose transfers. Now, teams that lose a lot of transfers, maybe not doing real well. Maybe they got a new coach. There's some other factors, but you still got to let them try to restock their roster in Division I to 85 scholarship guys. You can't. If you get down to 67, 68, 71 scholarships, you're going to be hindered over the course of the season when everybody else has got 80 to 85 or the full 85. So it's a mathematical thing, and it's all about players. And I'm glad to see. I hope this rule kicks in, and then and they can let it play for a little while and see if maybe they got to adjust it or not. I know you're talking about a 1-year thing. Well, that would be a good start, to say the least. And maybe in future years, put a limit on like up to 3 extra guys if you legitimately lose X number. So, they'll stay. The Coaches Association will stay on top of that.
Got a little extra pick for you on the way out. Rice at Texas. Rice is getting 26 at Texas. I like the Rice Owls in this one.
Wow. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I just was kind of looking at some games coming up. And look.
I like red beans and rice. I don't know if I like the Rice Owls.
Rice Owls getting 26 at Texas. Okay, so my 3 picks of college football, TK. Alabama first half line, I'm always going to be there. They're -8.5 against Florida this weekend. LSU -19 against the Chippewas, and Rice, little Rice +26 against. And then a good strong heavy lean Auburn +6 at Penn State. Maybe just a lean, just a heavy lean, just a Ron Rantz lean.
I want people to check out my podcast, Talking Sports with TK. It's on all your major platforms. Just got added to another platform, Good Pods, whatever. And then, of course, meatpotatoesusa.com. The consultants will have lots of picks for you this weekend. If you like to bet on football, go to meatpotatoesusa.com. I'll throw out a baseball pick for you tonight, Ronnie. The Astros are big favorites over the Rangers, like -220. You can go broke betting big favorites in baseball, but I think it's the best bet on the board. So maybe a casual wager on the Astros to win tonight. Now, Court Street Cafe tonight's got the ribeye special, the grilled ribeye, the loaded baked potato. They're going to have all-you-can-eat fried fish tomorrow night. They'll have the LSU game on 6:30 kick on Saturday. Sunday brunch back happening from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Lunch specials, dinner specials, Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. In fact, Ronnie, I walked in this morning, a bunch of guys at a table yelled at me, "Hey, Grayson!" They had heard us talking about Court Street Cafe on Sports Shorts Radio, and they decided to come check it out. There was a group 3 of them having breakfast. They thought it was fantastic. They all told me goodbye when they left. So, hey, if you hadn't been here, Court Street Cafe, do what them 3 guys did this morning. Check it out. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Connect on Facebook and Instagram. They'll keep up with the lunch specials, dinner specials. They'll have the Tigers on Saturday night. And next Saturday, when the Tigers play at 11 in the morning, they'll have that game on, and they'll do some specials we'll tell you about next week. 805 Court Street in Port Allen, not far from the Bruley Walk-Ons. Well, it will be Saturday morning for Sports Shorts Radio. So do check it out. And hit my podcast up, hit the meatpotatoesusa.com website. We'll have a lot of fun this weekend. Should be an interesting week in both the NFL and college football. And don't forget the high school teams.
He's Tommy. I'm Ronnie. We'll be back with more Sports Shorts Daily tomorrow morning right here on Facebook and YouTube. Please like and share. Have a great day, everybody.